Good afternoon. My name is Jason Chavez, and I'm the chair of the Committee of the Whole. I'm going to call to order our regular committee meeting for Monday, September 22nd, 2025. Before we begin the meeting, I want to offer a friendly reminder to all members, staff, and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify a quorum.
Councilmember Payne.
Present.
Walmsley is absent. Rainville.
Present.
Vita.
Present.
Ellison is absent. Osmond is absent. Cashman. Present. Jenkins is absent. Chiptai. Present. Koski is absent. Palmisano.
Present.
Vice Chair Chowdhury. Present. And Chair Chavez.
Present.
There are 8 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. Today, we will begin with reports of our standing committees before we take up our agenda. We'll begin first with the Administration and Enterprise Oversight Committee. I'll pass it to the Vice Chair of that committee, Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The AEO Committee will be bringing forward 27 items for consideration at the council meeting this week. The first 8 are approvals for donations for travel to trade conferences for city staff. Item number 9 is the low bid for hydraulic pump, motor, and cylinder repairs, a low bid of $250,000. Item number 10 is a low bid for the Minneapolis Convention Center project for approximately $700,000, the Mill City Pizzeria construction specifically. Item number 11 are contracts with, I'm looking at how many, a lot, 35 vendors for the next 3 years of violence prevention services for the Neighborhood Safety Department, up to a potential total amount of $8.9 million. Item number 12 is contracts with various vendors for financial wellness, homebuyer education, and foreclosure counseling services. Item number 13 is a contract with National Captioning Institute for real-time video captioning services. Item number 14 is a contract with Minnesota IT Services for the cybersecurity program. Item number 15 is a contract amendment with Neptune for water toxicity monitoring. Item number 16 is a contract amendment with Aloha Landscaping for yard maintenance services. Item number 17 is a contract amendment with Asset Works for additional professional services for the fleet and fuel management software. Item 18 is a contract amendment with DRI Consulting for management assessments and related services. Item number 19 are contract amendments for housing opportunities for people living with HIV and AIDS. There are 7 of them. Item number 20 is a contract amendment with Tyzac Concrete for the Phillips Traffic Safety Project. Item 21 is a contract amendment with Axon for additional software and equipment for reg services. Item number 22 is the legal settlement of Mason Herman versus the City of Minneapolis. Item 23 is a compensation claim of Robert Mercado. Item 24 is a workers' claim of Andrew Ryer. Item number 25 is the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on Aging appointment of Megan Bergman. Item 26 is a parking management staff directive. And item number 27 is a contract with ABM for the municipal parking system. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. There are no comments or questions. So next up, we'll go on to the Budget Committee with the chair of that committee, Vice President Chuck Tai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This council cycle, the Budget Committee has been hearing departmental presentations related to the 2026 recommended budget and has held one public hearing so far, but we are not bringing forward any items for the council to approve this cycle.
Thank you. No one is on queue. So next up, we have the Business, Housing, and Zoning Committee. And with that, item number 1 in the committee is approving the inclusionary zoning TIF plan for the 7 Points project. You weren't here when
Okay.
So I had grabbed it, but please.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
I know it's just a new addition that I'm the vice chair on the Business Housing and Zoning Committee, so I think that's the mix-up here. But for item number 1, it's approving the inclusionary zoning and TIF plan for 7 Points project. Item number 2 is approving a rental hall and extended hours license for Frida's event venue at 1501 Lake Street East. Item number 3 is approving 4 liquor licenses. Item number 4 is approving 54 liquor license renewals. Item number 5 is approving 3 gambling licenses. Item number 6 is approving project financing forgiveness for the Claire Apartments at 929 Central Avenue Northeast. Item number 7 is approving a Great Street loan to 1 Southside Clinic project at 1000 Lake Street East. Item number 8 is authorizing the CPED director to certify awards from the Local Housing Incentive Account project. Item number 9 is authorizing an ownership and opportunity fund loan to 42nd Street's second edition at 3400 42nd Street East. Item number 10 is approving an unused right-of-way street vacation next to 5117 Harriet Avenue, the local historic landmark of the Nelson House at 2620 8th Avenue North. And lastly, item number 11 is amending a previous resolution that cleans up a legislative citation within the resolution language. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
No one is on queue. Thank you for that report. Next up, we'll go on to the Climate and Infrastructure Committee, chaired by Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Climate and Infrastructure Committee has 11 items for this cycle. Item 1 is passage of an ordinance renewing the Downtown Business Improvement Special Service District. Item 2 is passage of a resolution adopting assessments, levying assessments, and adopting the assessment role for sanitary sewer charges. Item 3 is passage of a resolution approving the 2026 operating plan and special charges for the Downtown Improvement Special Service District. Item 4 is passage of a resolution approving the 2026 operating plan and special charges for the 420A special service districts, including 50th and France, 54th and Lindale, Bloomington Lake, Chicago Lake, East Lake Street, Lindale Lake, and the West Broadway Improvement Special Service Districts. Item 5 is passage of a resolution approving the 2026 operating plan and special charges for the Downtown Improvement Special Service District. Item 6 is approving deviations for a commercial block permit for Dinner du Nord. Item 7 is authorizing a utility easement agreement with the Park Board for 53rd and York Avenue flood project. Item 8 is approving the concept layout for the Upper Harbor Terminal West River Parkway. Item 9 is authorizing contract amendments with various organizations related to stormwater, wastewater, and community resilience planning. Item 10 is approving a legislative directive related to the city's recycling rates, annual targets, and zero waste program implementation. And finally, 11 is passage of a resolution amending a previously passed resolution to update wording on minimum design standards and road stations for the Lake Harriet Parkway paving project. Thank you so much. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. No one is on queue. So next up, we'll go on to the Public Health and Safety Committee. Item number 1 is passage of a resolution related to the Safe and Thriving Communities Report and Plan for Public Safety Beyond Policing. Item number 2 is accepting a grant for DWI Police Liaison and DWI Defendant Monitoring Services and authorizing an agreement with the court for the grants. Item number 3 is accepting a grant for cannabis substance use prevention, authorizing agreements with organizations to implement programs related and appropriating funds. Item number 4 is accepting a grant for chronic disease prevention, authorizing agreements with organizations to implement programs related and appropriating funds and related. And item number 5 is accepting a grant for an automated cartridge case triage solution, authorizing an agreement with organizations to implement programs related to and appropriating funds related. And with that, we have completed the Public Health and Safety report. If there are any questions. Great. No one is on queue. So we have taken up the committee reports. And with that, we'll go on to our consent agenda. Item number 1 is approving the bylaws and rules for Safe and Thriving Communities Work Group. Item number 2 is setting a public hearing for October 7th, 2025 to consider an ordinance related to the creation of an arts commission. And lastly, item number 3 is referring to staff an ordinance related to the creation of a capital long-range improvement committee. With that, are there any questions from colleagues? All right. Seeing no discussion, I'll move approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Any abstention? And those items carry. Now we have 3 presentations to receive and file. First is receiving a legislative directive response related to the public safety capital projects. I'll welcome up COO Margaret Anderson Kelleher and Commissioner Barnett for that presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair and Council members. Todd Barnett. I'll start the presentation off, and then I'll hand it over to our CEO, Margaret Anderson Kelleher, and then I'll be back up again. And also, we have several city leaders in the audience to help with any specific questions. We're here before the Committee of the Whole to present on both the legislative directive that focuses on planned community safety facilities and also how those facilities connect to the Minnesota Department of Human Rights, settlement agreement. The focus of this presentation is specifically on 3 capital projects, the first being the North Minneapolis Community Safety Center, which would house the 4th precinct, and then the general police facilities improvement that comprises of some smaller projects, and then the Community Safety Training and Wellness Center. Before we dig into the legislative directive itself and overlaying what the existing long-term plans are, wanted to provide some background on the requirements and related work of the settlement agreement with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights. I won't read through all of the settlement agreement paragraphs, but I'll try to summarize those that are related to the facilities housing MPD employees specifically. The settlement agreement requires the city to conduct a comprehensive citywide MPD facilities assessment within 120 days of the execution of that agreement and to conduct assessments annually. A comprehensive facilities assessment was completed about mid-2023. A functional space needs assessment and a physical condition assessment was completed about the end of 2023, and then the equipment and non-database assessment was completed at the beginning of 2024. Following these initial assessment, the city was required to develop a plan called the Equipment, Technology, and Facilities Response Plan that addresses the implementation of improvements to police facilities and how the city plans to prioritize those improvements. The settlement agreement also requires us to support MPD and provide resources to implement the plans that I previously talked about. The plans must specifically develop a schedule for future assessments, and the city and MPD must perform those assessments as scheduled. As stated in the last bulletin, the city must provide MPD employees with physical working environments that are safe, secure, and equitable. Facilities that house MPD functions must be clean, meet all applicable accessibility and building codes. Also, they need to include some specific minimum standards that include portable water, functional bathroom, and pest-free facilities. MPD must submit requests for new or remodeled facilities through the appropriate city channels when it's determined that such improvements are needed to support functional change, meet current operational standards for modernization, or to meet other needs of MPD employees. And lastly, as a general provision within the settlement agreement, the city is responsible and required for providing necessary and reasonable financial resources to city departments involved in the implementation of this agreement to fulfill MPD's and the city's obligations. Moving on, the city has performed all the facilities assessments under the settlement agreement. These assessments focus on three key areas: functionality, physical conditions of the facilities, and supplement observations related to safety and livability of the facilities. These assessments made several findings and recommendations to three capital projects that I stated earlier that are the focus of this presentation. We include in this presentation a summary of those findings and recommendations. If you want greater detail, please refer to the specific assessment. The key findings for the fourth precinct included the following. There are several functional design problems with the building that are challenging for the city and the community. This includes significant accessibility issues, needed safety measures for staff housed at the precinct, and insufficient space for certain needs of modern precincts. Additionally, as a general note, the assessments included that the current precinct building is not in line with the current industry best practices for safety facilities. Looking at the Minneapolis training and wellness space that we have now, known as the SOC, which is the Special Operational Center, several issues were identified there. I got you. Several issues were identified there. Current facilities there did not have sufficient space or features to meet the requirement of the settlement agreement and do not meet current training wellness needs and are not in line with the industry standards at this time. Specifically, the current facilities are outdated and do not offer either the required training space for practical adult learning or features needed to support first responders' wellness. Additionally, when we look at improvements, it's important that we have large space that's needed. Things are complicated right now because we are renting the space from the Minneapolis School District. Lastly, just as a general note, the Minneapolis Police Facilities Improvements, the assessment notes that several improvements in each facility that is needed is just not meeting the standards under the settlement agreement. Oh, no. Yeah, there we go. For those three facilities assessments that were completed, the city developed a equipment, non-database technology and facility plan, which was recently approved by ALIFA and has just now been posted on the city website. In that plan, the city addresses all recommendations from the three assessments and lays out the proposed actions and timelines associated with each, including whether individual upgrades to existing facilities, full remodeling, or facility replacements needed to occur. The plans touch on all MPD facilities, including precincts and facilities housing training, wellness, and forensics. And actions for recommendation range from minor things like painting and cleaning all the way up to full facility replacement. This slide outlines the planned actions for each of the capital projects that are the subject of this presentation. For the training and wellness space for MPD, the city has identified this as a need to replace the existing one for MPD and likely build a new dedicated facility. I'll talk more about this in some slides further in the presentation. Likewise, the city is on a path to either replace or significantly renovate the 4th precinct. As stated previously, the current building that houses the 4th precinct has some challenges for just how it functions for the city, MPD, and the community. Additionally, when considering space limitations of the building and the desire to build a North Minneapolis Community Safety Center, it's likely that the city will need to search for a new location for the facility that meets the needs of both the city and community, and similar to aiming for what we've done with the South Minneapolis Community Safety Center as well. There's more detail on that that I'll share later. Lastly, the general MPD facility improvements. The city and MPD have an ongoing responsibility to improve and maintain all facility housing MPD employees to a high standard throughout the life of the settlement agreement and beyond. The largest and most immediate facility need is related to the settlement agreement and the consent decree provisions. We want to provide an overview of the vision of the community safety training and wellness facility that is currently in the planning process. The vision of this facility to meet the ongoing training and wellness needs of all Minneapolis community safety departments. While there are specific training and wellness needs that the city must address to comply with the settlement agreement and the consent decree, we view this as an opportunity to address significant needs to those areas for all of our safety departments. We envision this facility to be state-of-the-art, where space is used for functionality for all of our departments, that this is an opportunity for cross-department training and exercises, where our safety employees' health and wellness are addressed with modern, tailored solutions that are specific to the challenges that they face. We anticipate the features for this facility to include, but not limited to, modern classrooms of various sizes that are designed and are equipped for adult learning, wellness space and resources like family support rooms, office space for employee support teams, a fitness and wellness workout space, computer labs, MPD firing range, which would move from out of the 4th precinct, and space for large-scale exercises and incident management, which the city lacks right now. Again, we're still in the planning stage for these facilities, for this one in particular, but the OCS department, with the partnership with our property services, have identified things that we think are needed for our departments. Lastly, on this slide, we recognize that this is a great opportunity also for multiple jurisdictional partnerships, but we won't be ready to really identify those partnerships until we actually can publicly share the space once that is identified. In relation to the facility plans and the capital long-term investment process, this slide notes the anticipated timelines for each of the 3 projects that is the focus of this presentation. One point I'd like to emphasize is that the city must complete the facility replacement or improvements to be in compliance with the settlement agreement. Looking specifically at the community safety training and wellness facility that's currently in the planning stage, excuse me, We anticipate that the design and architectural phase would occur in 2026, and that we would begin building in 2027. This is a rough timeline, of course, as we look at the facilities that are critical to comply with the settlement agreement. As such, we continue to look at all the avenues to expedite the timelines and prioritize the important changes that are needed to comply with the settlement agreement. The fourth, or the North Minneapolis Community Safety Center, of course, in 2026, we will be in the planning stage and also hope to be in the design and architectural plans through the construction for hopefully 2027. This timeline will be fleshed out more as we move along. Lastly, just looking at MPD facility improvements, which we started doing this in 2024 and will continue beyond the settlement agreement. The focus of the projects under here are for smaller improvements that we continue to standardize, look at our security standards, and also work with our with MPD. This concludes this portion that I have for the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Margaret Anderson Kelleher, our COO.
Thank you and welcome.
Mr. Chair, Committee of the Whole members, thank you to Commissioner Barnett. I will do a few slides that will kind of show you how there's a lot of cross-collaborative work in particularly this area with Director O'Brien is in the audience, and Property Services, as well as finance work that has to happen in all of this. And I just want to mention as well IGR, because of the possible multi-jurisdictional work of this, and also just being able to possibly apply for monies that may become available that could help us in our efforts on this front. And then, of course, to mention the CAO's office and all the work that they do here as well. So our part of this directive really looks at how do we make decisions, operational priorities around how the city manages as well as implements building projects or renovation projects, and how they align with our values of racial equity, values around community safety, sustainability, community engagement, and some of these things are outlined in the Safe and Thriving Communities Plan, some of them in the Strategic Racial Equity Action Plan, SREAP, in the Climate Equity Plan, as well as our 2040 Comprehensive Plan. And so this really these things guide us in doing that. And so we've created this matrix for you to be able to kind of see how it all works together. So the priorities are evaluated, the projects are evaluated on these 4 priorities. Diversifying the city's spend, which of course is an important goal here as we grow an economy that reflects the diversity of Minneapolis and the region in terms of our businesses. Climate, we have strong goals around climate, net zero for the city by 2040, and of course any new project has high standards to go up against. And it's an opportunity as we go through renovations to do that. It helps us lower the cost overall of operating. It's actually fairly, when you look at the long run cost of a building, it's cheap to buy or build a building, but it's actually the long-term costs of running a building that kind of catch up with us in the end. So doing these things thoughtfully in the beginning is really important. And then, of course, transparency. Clear and accessible information helps us foster confidence in the community. And our plans that I outlined before really help us be able to have that transparency out there. The public knows what we're measuring ourselves against as we look at whether it is the updating of current facilities
or the building of new facilities. Importantly, it's also the built environment conditions. So modern flexible workspaces, standardization of workstations, which provides a feeling and really the equity in a workplace, modern workforce amenities, including things like quiet spaces, mother's rooms, pantries with standard operating equipment, laundry in these 24-hour facilities, and even outdoor spaces for being able to refresh and have some contact with nature. And then, of course, access to natural daylight as an important design priority. I think if you know some of our buildings, in particular some of our past precinct buildings and even the 4th precinct currently, that access to natural daylight is something that we do not have today. So if we look at the North Minneapolis Community Safety Center and what we are looking at here, so to the settlement agreement, there is a requirement to significantly either improve this current space that we have, which is on Plymouth Avenue, or we might be in a position to replace it, as the commissioner said, either looking for another space, a renovated space, or building space. And this is important because these spaces really do need to do a lot of things. They will be home, this North Minneapolis Community Safety Center will be home to a lot of services, just like we expect at the South Minneapolis Community Safety Center. But it also has the ability to be more integrated into the community, to have more healing spaces available both for the practitioners of public safety as well as the community. And then, of course, we look at this question of smaller projects or consolidating satellite offices. The substation idea and satellite locations usually come with some high property costs to us. We're often in a leasing situation there. And then staffing for the staff that's working out of these facilities, there's not that coordinated effort and the ability to work together more as a team and support the current model that we are going for here in the settlement agreement, which is that span of control, that ability to supervise and things like that. And then, of course, the relationship to non-city safety centers where these non-city facilities can have an interaction as well. We will continue learning from the work that's being done on the South Minneapolis Community Safety Center. It will inform what happens in North Minneapolis. It'll help educate us. It'll hopefully take the learning curve down a little bit, and we can move more quickly together. And I'm going to turn it now back to Commissioner Barnett. I will stay nearby for any questions that may come up.
Thank you. Welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. Transitioning back to specific projects, I'll go through each of the points from the legislative directive for how the city is overlaying specific considerations related to community safety. First, the North Minneapolis Community Safety Center, which will house the 4th precinct. We have already covered how the settlement agreement impacts the planning. So to comply with the standards and recommendations set forth in the agreement itself and the assessment, the city plans to either completely remodel the existing site or build an entirely new site that's already been mentioned earlier. Again, building a new site likely will require us currently to look at how this would progress. More likely, it would progress like we've done with the South Minneapolis Community Safety Center, where we've gotten a lot of input from community with trying to determine what resources would go in there. We do anticipate that to determine the services that would go in there, a lot of work from our different departments would be required to meet the same standard that we've done in the South Minneapolis Community Safety Center that focuses on preventive and restorative services. Like we did with that, and I said earlier, it will take a lot of community engagement to identify what we would like to see in that building, along with the 4th precinct. The question of whether a smaller satellite locations could fulfill the need of the safety center or precinct, Margaret Anderson Keller's already touched on some of the points. I'll try to emphasize the same points here. One is that it's costly to do these satellite offices and makes it difficult when we have staff that's spread out. Regarding the potential to combine precincts or operating areas, current staffing and program projections and services needed indicate that combining precincts or operations facilities would not be ideal. And then lastly, the North Minneapolis Community Safety Center, as we look at that, compare it with the non-city affiliated safety centers, do offer sort of complementary services to community, and we look at trying not to duplicate those services. Moving on to the looking at the general facilities or MPD facilities, as referred to earlier in the presentation, the settlement agreement requires us to make several improvements across virtually all of the facilities housing our MPD employees, and that must be accomplished and maintained throughout the life of the settlement agreement to reach compliance. This project helps to cover the smaller improvements that are required other than the standalone projects that we've talked about. Examples, again, are minor aesthetics or modernization improvements, safety enhancements. When we look at the context of the overall community safety ecosystem and the Safe and Thriving Community Report, these smaller improvements do affect services and resources throughout the ecosystem. In particular, they house community safety centers or precincts, which we would like to continue to see. Included in those are embedded social workers, crime prevention specialists, MPD officers, community navigators, and others. As related to the smaller projects or looking at consolidated precincts, this project is primarily focused on smaller cost improvements to the existing buildings. When we look at the Community Safety Training and Wellness Center, the settlement agreement has significant requirements for training and wellness that would require a new dedicated facility. The vision for this facility I talked about earlier, which would have several parts of the ecosystem and cover the needs for all of our first responders and OCS departments. A comprehensive training and wellness center like this will have benefits throughout the city and also anticipated to have a positive effect on cross-departmental and interjurisdictional work. The reality is that it'll be efficient and practical. The reality is that no cost-efficient or particular path for smaller projects to meet the training and wellness facility would be feasible at this time. We do look towards having a large facility that can meet the needs for all of our departments. The city's safety departments do frequently do a lot of training. The settlement agreement requires a lot of training, and that's one reason that we need our own building in order to meet those conditions and provisions of the settlement agreement. I will end there and stand for any questions.
Thank you. First person on queue is Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. Thank you, Commissioner Barnett. This PSD 23 Training and Wellness Center, what is the location?
Through the chair, Councilmember Cashman, we are still in the planning stage. We have not identified a location yet. We're looking to see looking at different areas in which we can accomplish all the things that I've outlined.
Okay, and then I assume we'll be having a capital budget presentation soon. This might be a question for our budget chair, Vice President Chugtai. Do you know the date off the top of your head on when that will be presented, just so I can dig a little deeper for that?
Yes, give me 1 second, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
I can also ask my other question in the meantime. So one thing that I was just a little confused about what happened was that the CLIC, the Capital Long Range Improvement Committee, put forward, got all these requests from different departments, right, for their capital improvements, and went through them and put a lot of time into developing a recommended capital plan for the city. And then what happened to that plan was that there were several deviations, and most of them were in this department. So when we heard from CLIC, they came before the committee. I asked for a follow-up on the different deviations, and they have shared that now. And so a lot of these facilities that you're mentioning were not put through the CLIC process, but were added in after the fact, and so it kind of subverted that process a little. And I'm wondering what's the reason for that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councilmember Cashman. You probably all heard us say that's not true out loud, so I will just say that's not true. We actually did put these through the CLIC process.
Oh.
CLIC has a different point of view sometimes. As we have learned, anyone in CNI knows that sometimes when the staff puts forward a recommendation, CLIC might say something different or want to highlight a different priority. I think that is the case in this area, but I will also respectfully say if we want to comply with the settlement agreement, I want to remind everyone that from the date of something being implemented and up and running, there needs to be a full 2 years of operation before we can even be considered for being complete to the settlement agreement. And that is why you see the administration pushing very hard to get these projects up and going, because we will not be able to be released from the settlement agreement on these topics of facilities until they are open, running, functional for 2 years.
Mm-hmm. So all of the capital projects here presented are recommended by, or to be in compliance with the settlement agreement?
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Cashman, that is correct. These things have all been, both the two larger projects, the North Minneapolis, well, actually three, South Minneapolis Community Safety Center, the North Minneapolis Community Safety Center, the Training and Wellness Facility, and then the multitude of many small projects that have been done that are being updated throughout the facilities. All of those things have been identified by ALIFA as deficiencies in our current plan and need to be updated.
Okay. I guess I'll just have to check in with the CLIC members then as to what they understood behind these proposals, and maybe they didn't know that, or there was some misunderstanding about the importance of these, that they weren't recommended by CLIC, but then were added into our plan. Lastly, just wanted to congratulate you all on the new first precinct at Century Plaza. I had a chance to tour that with Lieutenant Kluko, and it's really, really nice. I know that there were adjustments made to the bathroom and like different conditions to make sure that the female officers are also like feeling really comfortable in this space and able to grow that workforce. So I see a lot of thoughtfulness put into that, and I'm really happy to see it. So congratulations. And then I'll just follow up on when the capital budget is with you, Council Vice President. Thank you so much.
Chair, if I could just add, Councilmember Cashman, thanks for saying that. One thing that I would say is that this is a good opportunity for me, again, to acknowledge property services, because they're not always acknowledged in a way that they just really worked hard to include members of MPD that would be using the building to make it really functional for them. And so that not only did the building come out and just look outstanding and functional, but it took a lot of work for our first precinct officers to work with our property service folks and designers to make that building the way it is. So it's really thankful for the collaboration.
Yeah, it certainly looks very great on the inside. I will note the street facing, I think, still needs some final touch-ups so that people walking by actually know what's inside. I haven't seen that signage, but I'm sure it's coming. So thank you.
Next up, we have Councilmember Vita.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. Thank you, Commissioner and COO, for the presentation. I have a few questions. The first one is around collecting information. When do you think you'll start collecting input from community?
Through the chair, Councilmember Vita, are you talking about for the North Minneapolis Community Safety Center?
Yes, that's the only thing I'll be talking about.
I thought so.
North Minneapolis.
Didn't want to make that assumption. I'm not sure yet, just because it's so early on in the process. But you could imagine, just like the South Minneapolis Community Safety Center, we want to do a lot of engagement with community and getting information on what they would like to see besides the fourth precinct in there.
Yeah,
So,
and I
yes.
think that's extremely important, Commissioner. And so as soon as you all find out like when that process can begin and how you want to collect the information, I'd love to just be in the know of how that's going to happen so we can make sure. I mean, there's just been so many conversations the years that I've been here about a new fourth precinct, and I know people have a lot of ideas, and just based on kind of the conversation you had around having a satellite versus, just this kind of safety center overall, I think there's some separate conversations to be had about that. Is my understanding correct that the satellite is not required through the settlement agreement?
Through the chair, Councilmember Vita, that's correct.
Okay, but we could, and it's expensive, but we could maybe still what about the training center? Is that just like the location of that? Is that up for somewhere else in the city, or are we still thinking about North Minneapolis for the training center also?
Through the chair, Councilmember Vita, we're trying to figure out what is the ultimately what's the best location.
Okay.
For that, and we're still early in that process.
And then would the range be going with the training center, or is this going to be a part of the fourth precinct still?
Through the chair, Councilmember Vita, the goal would be to move the range to the training and wellness center. That's the goal. We continue to look at overall, once a site is identified, we have to look at what's feasible for that site. Also take into consideration down the line, what ultimately are we going to do with the current fourth precinct property there.
Okay.
Right. We got to think of, if the property's big enough, can we have a firing range to do the things that we want to do there? Mm-hmm. Hopefully that is the case, that we'll move it. Yep.
But also just thinking about the building that they're currently in.
Yes.
But did you said that could potentially get some upgrades to it? Like, it's not necessarily we're going to relocate. I think they may want to be, but that building could just get some upgrades?
Through the chair, Councilmember Vita, I think one of the things that we're looking at, property service in particular, is looking at assessing that particular piece of property and what ultimately we want in that North Minneapolis Community Safety Center.
Okay, and then last question, Commissioner, is you said that, you know, the idea of exploring other services and housing them in that building is left up to the community. What are some of the things that you've done for Southside so far?
Well, I'm sorry, through the chair, Councilmember Vita, ultimately, we want the input of the community to guide us to what services we want there. We know that, you know, say in the South Minneapolis Community Safety Center there, although it'll house the 3rd Precinct, we know through a lot of engagement that Director Harrington did with that specific population to understand what services or gaps of services that might be missing. What is it that the community want? Because we want to invite and welcome people to use the services there. We don't want to be in a position to say this is what they need, but whether or not what would be helpful for that area. We would do the same thing in North Minneapolis.
But was that like more like social services? Like, you know, I'm just trying to understand, like, were people asking for a place to apply for permits? Or like because there's several different centers on the south side that include a lot of different city services. Right. So I guess I'm trying to understand, you know, what are some of the things that are going to be housed in this building? Sometimes I don't think people know what they can ask for, and they'll say like, we want a basketball court, right, or something like that, but we really need an office for business permits or something.
Through the chair, Councilmember Vita, we would like community to just ask. I mean, just ask us, let us figure out if it's feasible, whether it's a social service by Hennepin County that we can include in there or not. So I would say we would rather, when we do the surveys, when we do the community engagement, that members just ask for what they think would work, let us figure out the other parts, and let us come back and say, this is what we think we can do or not do. Off the top of my head, I don't recall the services for the South Minneapolis Community Safety Center. Do you? Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Council Member Vita, Jared Jeffries, Deputy Commissioner of Community Safety. Some examples of the services that community identified for South Minneapolis included domestic violence support, human trafficking. I think drug and opioids were also identified. Then there were a few other options where, as much as we would like to, they didn't meet public purpose for what the city could actually house or provide. So childcare, for example, or things of that nature. So to Commissioner Barnett's point, the guidance from community is extremely helpful in helping prioritize what they feel is needed, but we also have to filter that through what we can actually provide as well.
Okay, thank you. That was a super helpful answer. And then the safety center also has the community space also, right? Like, isn't there some meeting space included in those safety centers?
Through the chair, Councilmember Vita, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, one more question. Is there money in the budget for you to, like, if you start collecting in 2026, is there money in the budget for you to collect the data you need from community, or is this something that we'll have to figure out when you get there in 2026?
Through the chair, Councilmember Vita, that's again something that we'll have to continue to figure out with collaboration from our other departments. To the extent of the community engagement that we'll have, but we still want to do a robust engagement with community, just like we did with the South Minneapolis Community Safety Center.
Does someone know how much that costs?
Through the chair, Councilmember
You can tell me later.
We'll get that to you unless
I don't have that.
Okay.
I want to say something else.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, thank you. To Councilmember Vita's point about services, I think partly location depends because the current 4th precinct is 1.5 blocks away from North Point. And so you would kind of think, or 2 blocks, you'd want to think about things like that in the area. I do believe we will put a 311 service center in this facility. That was something that the city did in the South Side Community Safety Center. It's an important equity issue so that constituents, business owners have a place to go where they don't have to come downtown. I mean, we want people to keep using our facility here, but it also is a huge convenience to be able to come closer to home, to be able to get those permits or pay a bill or whatever it is.
Thank you for that. You must have been reading my eyes because that's it. Like if you move the location from Plymouth, you lose the Hennepin County services 3 blocks in one direction and then North Point 3 blocks in the opposite direction. So if you just go to Broadway, that kind of changes how people access a lot of things. So just wondering the future in that. But thank you. You answered the question.
Okay. Next up, we have Vice Chair Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. Before I ask my questions to Commissioner Barnett, I'll just add, I think, Councilmember Vita, you asked a good question about the things that folks advocated for on the South Side. Some other things that are going to be there is like a kitchen for community meals, space for kids to play while their adults are using the South Side Safety Center, and then we're also putting a bus stop like nearby there so it's transit accessible, and then also having quiet spaces for people who might be victims of crimes, and then training and advocacy around sex trafficking. So there's some other examples, and the community engagement that we did on the South Side was pretty robust. And I totally get what you're saying. You need people to kind of hear and see what currently exists to inform what they can ask for. Yeah. My first question is about the training center. So is this going to be new construction, or is this looking for existing property to kind of build within?
Through the chair, Councilmember Chowdhury, it depends on what's available for us. Of course, if a building or the property that was identified in the building was sufficient to meet the requirements that we're looking for, that would be great. If not, and it requires a new building, then that's what we would look at. I mean, there's so many factors involved that I think Property Services is really trying to locate and maximize what they can with one site.
Okay, so they're looking basically for anything, like vacant parcels or existing buildings. Like, I guess I'm kind of trying to understand how the scoping is being done for this new training center.
Right. Through the chair, Councilmember Chowdhury, I know that there's been a lot of engagement with Property Services along the lines of what's required in the settlement agreement, also keeping in mind any of the provisions in the consent decree there, along with trying to make sure that whatever we build is sustainable for the future and can meet this. So I know that Property Services folks, and I think some OCS staff have gone out and visited different facilities already to kind of see what they have. Right now, I can say that we're still in that planning stage of sort of like identifying the property and then deciding what we can do there.
Okay, and then maybe, I don't know, because I have a lot of Property Services questions.
All right.
I don't know if this is, Barbara O'Brien can kind of help think through them.
I'm sure she can.
Okay, great.
If it's very specific, yes.
I guess I kind of want to get a better understanding of like where you are at, what stage you're at in terms of scoping for property. Are you thinking about, are you prioritizing city parcels, or are you leaning more towards purchasing and acquisition at this point? And yeah, so what stage are you at, and then what comes after that?
Chair Chavez and council members. The question about how are we going about this? I think it's best to explain that we needed to spend some time understanding what the program would be, because it's really hard to search for something when you don't know what you're trying to outfit it for. So we have, over the course of the last several months, we have really been concentrating on what would the program be? What would we ideally like to house there? So that gives us an idea about the size of what we would need. So that has predicated the fact that we would need multiple acres. And it would likely be something that we would have to invest in new construction just to make the needs. It would be a very special unicorn for us to find a building that could be adapted. We've tried that in the past. We have a facility today that was originally designed and built to be an elementary school, and we have adopted and adapted that building to meet training needs, and it doesn't work. And so we are right now at the stage of understanding the programmatic needs, which has given us clues on the size of property that we are looking for. And frankly, we have not said that it has to be a city-owned property. We are open to anything that would be available that would meet our size requirements so that we can successfully build our program.
Thank you. That is really, really helpful. Do you have an understanding of how many acres at this point, or is it still being decided?
Ideally, the ideal property would be not less than 4 acres.
Not less than 4 acres.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then I answered the question, open to city parcels or land acquisition throughout the city. I know that in our capital budget, the ask for this is $5.5 million. What will that be used for?
So the way that we have it programmed today through our capital program, we know that we will have to do site acquisition likely, and that we will have to do general programmatic devices that will lead us to a design phase. And so those dollars have been asked for so that we had money for those initial, what I would call pre-design efforts.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have a couple more questions. Some of them might be for you, Director O'Brien.
Okay.
Some might not. Just caveat it with that. Are you able to share the maximum amount of funding that's going to be necessary for this project? Is there a ballpark that we have here?
So it's really too premature to say that.
Okay.
There are a lot of factors that need to be considered. First of all, the site acquisition and what that may or may not entail. If we are able to have if we are able to have partners that join in this, I think there are a lot of factors. So I would hold on stating that at this point.
Okay.
Really look forward to the opportunity to share that with you in the future.
Great. And then my last question, and this is about the state legislative ask, which I think in our next IGR committee meeting, we have a resolution that'll come before us for action by the council. It's my understanding that the ask is $19 million of bonding funding. How did we get to that number? And what will that be used for? And why are we asking for $19 million?
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair, Councilmember Chowdhury. So when working up that ask, we looked at similar types of facilities. It has not been uncommon. So that is to say, the legislature has invested in other facilities like this around the state. And so when we looked at those facilities, how much they cost, similar types of facilities in communities like ours, we looked at asking for approximately, and again, I want to be very careful about this because this is very early, as Director O'Brien said, about half of what the cost might be.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. Those are all the questions that I have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, COO Anderson Kelleher and Commissioner Barnett. I think this has been a really insightful update on these 3 very significant capital projects, and I'd like to keep track of them as they move forward a little bit more. One of my biggest takeaways and reminders from early on in this presentation, these are required per our settlement agreement with the Department of Human Rights. So if we personally support all of them or some of them or none of them, Minneapolis has to do this work. And CLIC doesn't have a choice either. And CLIC shouldn't be opining on whether or not something is legally mandated, full stop. That's out of their lane. The CLIC chair agrees with me on that. To that end, for the Training and Wellness Center, I'm curious what kinds of updates can we expect in 2026 as to things like site selection, design, and architectural plans. I'm also curious, do we have a contractor for this yet, or is that one of the first things that would come before us for approval?
So, Mr. Chair, Councilmember Palmisano, I'm going to take that in 2 parts and say that one of the things that, frankly, Director O'Brien, in her thoughtfulness and creativity, has come up with is the repurposing of the former First Precinct building into another auxiliary training facility. So we're working on that now. We have cleaned that space out, and we are undergoing a demo contract right now. That will help buy us some time here to move towards this project. And so right now, we are looking at this point, it would be the design and architectural plans happening in 2026, but we don't have a contractor, we don't have a contract for this, we don't have a designated space for this yet. So we're kind of taking it in 2 parts. One is continuing to use the leased Hamilton School, which is where most training is taking place today, adding on the former First Precinct building to be some pressure relief for training, and then move towards this process in 2026.
Yeah, that's helpful. I appreciate the complexity of all the different pieces and components of this, and surveying the community, as was said, is important parts of this. This is maybe a side question. On slide 16, there were a lot of ADA improvements, security and safety enhancements, livability, aesthetic upgrades, that sort of thing. Can you give us some specific examples of improvements that have already been made that maybe aren't part of the First Precinct, as was highlighted, and rightfully so?
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Palmisano, members of the committee, we actually have undergone hundreds of these already. Everything from where a bathroom was not ADA accessible or not up to par, things like new cots in a couple of the precincts, working on helping folks understand the relationship between where is the line between police services, property services. When someone sees something, how do they report it? But there's all sorts of both very small things that happened relatively quickly to very large, and we could provide that document for the council in terms of seeing it and to see the amazing progress that we've done together already.
I think the public would be interested in in being able to see how much has been done already, and that's part of why I asked. This presentation gives a lot of context as to how this fits in with all our other city goals and priorities, right? If we're going to build something new, how do we make it as climate friendly as possible, for example? talked about there being sequencing issues, and that's a very complex part of Director O'Brien's job. But the biggest thing I see here are things about the gun range. Is it possible, this is something I've looked at for a very long time, trying to move the gun range out of North Minneapolis. Is it possible to look at gun range opportunities that already exist outside of Minneapolis? Or is looking at something like that in a shared capacity way possible, or even in scope? I know from previous research on this topic that it's very difficult to find available space for this very necessary certification of our officers. That said, I'm not sure that any community around here is going to ask for it or offer to host one.
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Palmisano, I think it would be great to hear more about your past research on this. I think what you've heard today is the goal would be to have that gun range located inside this new training and wellness facility, and the possibility that that might be shared space with someone else is also a possibility. We would really need, and I think Director O'Brien, as well as the commissioner, myself, the conversation as well with MPD. They are the end user of the facility, and we need to make sure that it works for them, both from the standpoint of location and function, and understand the balance with the community of the function.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. There is no one else on queue, and seeing no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to receive and file that presentation. Colleagues, we have captioners until 4 p.m. today, so the favor I'm going to ask all of you today is that if you want the captioners to stay beyond 4 p.m., that would need to be a request. So please let me know now if you are planning to stay beyond 4 p.m. so I can make my calculations if there's going to be quorum. All right, so I'm going to ask my colleagues to please be respectful of that 4 p.m. timeline, unless we are going to make a request for captioners to stay beyond 4 p.m. And we have 2 presentations left, so I just wanted to ask if folks want to stay beyond 4 p.m., we can make that request, but we need to make sure that there are 7 people that are willing to stay beyond that time. All right. So next up, we have a presentation for the Minneapolis Democracy Center design. I'll welcome up Director Barbara O'Brien, City Clerk Carl, who is not going to be able to be here today, but we have folks from the Clerk's Department, and LSC for that presentation.
One moment, please. Our presentation isn't showing, and so we're trying to just get that working.
If the clerks can help us figure out the presentation component.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Yay. Welcome, Director.
Thank you, and thank you to Ken for helping. We are really fortunate to have amazing clerks here at the City of Minneapolis. Good afternoon, Chair Chavez and members of the committee. My name is Barbara O'Brien, and I have the privilege of serving as the Director of Property Services for the City of Minneapolis. I'm here today with colleagues from the city's Election and Voter Services Department, as well as our consultant partners from LSE Architects, to present an overall schematic design concept for the new Minneapolis Democracy Center to be located at the existing city-owned facility at 3000 Minnehaha Avenue. As you recall, in April of 2025, a request for council action was brought forward to you for approval. The RCA sought the approval of the design and engineering contract with LSE Architects that had a unique component about it. The contract did not follow traditional format because traditionally, following council and mayoral approval, consultant contracts proceed through the entire design process, advancing through all of the phases of design. This particular design contract delineated a very specific point in the process at which the schematic design presentation would be prepared for committee. This measure was implemented to ensure transparency in the redevelopment process of a distinctive city-owned property. In May of this year, the design process began. Since then, Property Services, along with the city clerk, EVS staff, and LSE Architects, have been in partnership for this project design. And we have prepared a presentation today that will demonstrate such. Today's presentation will focus on the review of the overall schematic design concept. The presentation will demonstrate functional space layouts along with their corresponding exterior elevations. This will illustrate the intent of transforming the building, but it is just schematic design. The following today's schematic design presentation, the design process will continue throughout the end of December, when it is expected that the construction documents will be finalized and prepared for construction bidding in early 2026. Before moving to the formal presentation, I would like to invite my colleague, Director Katie Smith, to highlight the functionality of Minneapolis's Election Voter Services Center, and as well as share her involvement in the design process to date. Director Smith.
Thank you. Welcome, Director Smith.
Thank you, Director O'Brien. Chair Chavez and members of committee, my name is Katie Smith, and I am the Director of Elections and Voter Services. As you know, our division is responsible for planning and conducting all elections in the city of Minneapolis and ensuring that every voter has access to the ballot box. This includes the municipal election that's currently underway, presidential elections, school board elections, and everything in between. The Democracy Center will relocate this core city function from existing leased spaces that are on the northeastern edge of the city to this more centrally located space that is both city-owned in its property and a city-owned facility. This project allows for the consolidation of all election-related functions and operations into a single space. At our existing leased space, our operations are spread across 3 separate facilities within a single business complex. The services and programs moving into this new facility go far beyond what people typically imagine when they think of the word elections, like casting a ballot at our early vote center. That will be included, but it's also going to house our training program that certifies our election judges who work at the polls on election day, our election judge coordinators and polling place team, our administrative and candidate services, our logistics team who test and certify our equipment, the vote by mail program, and our active voter outreach team who work diligently to bring information and engagement out into community. This space will serve as home to 50 to 150 seasonal workers who are assigned to those program areas, all 16 of our permanent staff, and all 2,500 election judges who are coming through and attending classes. But more importantly, this space is being designed with the needs of the voters of Minneapolis in mind. It's been my pleasure to partner with Property Services and with LSE Architects during this initial schematic phase of this process. The new facility will strengthen the safety of our staff and our voters, strengthen the security of our ballots and our equipment, and at the same time, create an open, transparent, and welcoming environment. Those are values that are essential to the voter experience. LSE has taken into account not only our current programmatic needs, but our upcoming needs from the trends that we as administrators have seen across the nation. In this way, the new facility will not only be optimized for our current services, but it imagines a new future. With that, I just wanted to say thank you. I'll stay for any questions at the end, and I'll turn the presentation back over to Director O'Brien.
Thank you. Welcome up, Director O'Brien.
Thank you, Director Smith. I'd like to take a moment to recognize Mr. Paul Miller and Mr. Artur Maya, both from Property Services Capital Project Team, who have been very instrumental in this project's design work process thus far. I'm also pleased to introduce representatives from our consulting firm, LSE Architects, who will be walking us through the formal presentation today. With us are the firm's Chief Executive Officer and Principal Architect, Mohammed Lawal. We appreciate him joining us for this presentation. At this time, I would like to invite Mohammed Lawal of LSE Architects to the podium to review the schematic design of the Minneapolis Democracy Center.
Thank you. How do we advance the slides?
I will do that for you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Councilmember Chavez and the council. I'm Mohammed Lawal. I'm the CEO of LSE Architects and also the principal architect. The first slide here shows the current location of the elections voter services, which are currently located at 980 East Hennepin in 3 leased spaces. You can go to the next slide. And what we did as part of this process starting in May, we visited the current location of the election voter services with Katie Smith and John Martin and the team to try to understand all the component parts and pieces and how they relate to each other and their current sizes, and then went through to try to understand, you can go to the next slide, and try to understand their current sizes, needs, and allocations to each other and how they might work in the new Democracy Center. So I won't go through each of these, and I can't see them. Okay, but you can go to the next slide. So now the current Minneapolis Democracy Center is going to be located at 3000 Minnehaha Avenue. The existing building there is currently about 39,700 square feet. So a couple of things, since I'm going to move over. Does that microphone work?
It does.
It does.
Yes.
There we go. Because then I can see. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, great. So the site is located right off of Lake Street and Minnehaha. And you can see in the larger map, you have 22 and Minnehaha is 7. It has great access to the LRT, bus, bike, pedestrian, and we are in Ward 4. So you can go to the next slide, please, Barbara. Oh, okay, I can do that. There we go. There we go. As part of this, the property is roughly 1.48 acres, and which is about 64,000 square feet. There are a number of different overlay areas that we're in. So this is, we're in a CM4 destination mixed-use district. The northern half of the site is, oops, let me go over this way. The northern half of the site is also in a built form corridor 6. So it has the different FARs, heights, lot coverages that are required. We are also in the CM3 community mixed use area. That is the southern half of the site. Currently there is an alley easement through the site, which I can show you on the larger site plan. And then finally, we're in Transit District 10 as well. So there are a lot of overlay pieces that overlay on the site. It's probably a little bit difficult to dialogue in terms of how all these relate to each other, but we've gone through all of the study on these. The existing building, as you may know, is a 3-story building, and it's got 1 level below grade. The building is 1 story on Minnehaha, then it goes up to 2 stories as you move west on Lake Street, and it goes up to 3 stories in height right at the furthest west end of the building right now. So it's about 42 feet in height, and it has a multitude of materials on it. It's brick, metal panel, glass, and a material called exterior insulation finish system, which is a sort of foam system that was used in the early 70s, 80s. And then there is a lower level to the building as well. These are photographs that we took of the project when we started the project in May. Directly to the east of the building on Minnehaha is Hook and Ladder. And as you move down, you get to Pangea Theater, Moon Palace Books, Solcana, and things like that. As you move west, we move towards the light rail station. So these are views of the building as it currently sits. Talked about the existing building. The current building is, again, just shy of 40,000 square feet. The first floor at street level is about 13,000 square feet. Oh, excuse me. At street level, it's about 11,700 square feet at street level. We'll talk about that. There's roughly about 130 parking stalls on the existing site. And if you can see, there's a public alley that goes through the site that moves along the eastern edge of the parking and heads west towards Snelling Avenue. The Snelling Avenue frontage is about 400 feet of frontage, just for reference, and the Lake Street frontage is about 355 feet of frontage, and on Minnehaha, the site has about 40 feet of frontage, so it's a small front on Minnehaha. Currently, there are 2 entrances to the building. There is the east entrance, which is the 3000 Minnehaha address, and there is a western entrance where it's currently bound by a secure fence that encloses that secure lot on that side. What we're proposing is roughly a 19,000 square foot addition on 2 levels, and I'll go through the component pieces as it relates to the site. And also, what we're proposing then here is to reorient the building so that we have a main entrance for the early voter center, which would be on Snelling Avenue, which is right on the west side of the site. I don't know if you all can see my cursor when it is. Okay, great. So on the west side of the site, there'll be the early voter entrance, which will have a Snelling address proposed to right now, so it's highly visible. And you have the parking lot and a drop-off that moves south towards north, and then you can head north or south on Snelling. We'd have another main entrance, and this is for the election judges and the community and the EVS staff that are coming to the early voter center to enter the building right off of Lake Street, sort of midpoint on Lake Street. And there's another entrance on the south side. Hook and Ladder, I don't show this here, but their entrance is right here. But this becomes another entrance for EVS staff and the election judges that park on the south side in the parking lot on the site. And then a fourth entrance to the building will be the entrance for the community space. Part of the program of the building is that there will be designated area for community space at street level. And I believe there's an RFP out that there are 2 community groups that have responded to, and we can talk more about that later. The EVS, the Election Voter Services, will occupy level 2 of the building, level 1 of the addition, level 2, and level 3. And I'll go through.
If you don't mind me,
Okay.
just going to help with the sound a little bit.
All right. I can project louder if we need to, but I know you
this'll
need to
help
use
too.
this. Okay, great. So on the first floor of the building, we have a number of components. I'll start out with this purple-colored space. That is the community space for a community partner. It's roughly 7,500 square feet. That space has a separate area that will have its own dedicated dock so that they can have services depending on what sort of community use is, so that they can get their own services separate from the election voter services. And as you all know, there has to be clear separation between things. On level 1, to the west of this blue line, will be election voter services on level 1. The blue space right here is the logistics center, which is a 2-story space, and this is an area where materials come into the building. That's an area where a number of the sorters and machines are stored. The green area is the early voting area, and then we have a welcome area, and this is the entrance off of Snelling that brings us into the early voting area. Also on the main floor, we have a training room that's roughly 1,500 square feet, and the entrance for the EVS staff, election judges, and members of the community that are coming to do various things in the Welcome Center on the first floor. Let me see. On the second floor, we have, in the blue area, and the red line right here, this red line denotes if you move to the east, that is the existing building, and to the west, that's a new addition. In the top left corner here of the existing building, we have the ballot board. We have mail-in ballots that are located in this area. In the green, we have another training center and a staff break room with access to outdoor daylighting. And then on the third floor, we have the administrative function for the EVS. And that's roughly 5,600 square feet. On the lowest level, we have a secure vault, and we have much of the building facilities, the mechanical, electrical support services that are needed for the building. That's all the things in gray, so more than close to 50% on the lower level. I should point out that in the logistics center, if I come back here, there's a secure elevator that allows materials to be transported up and down through the facility in a secure manner without crossing of certain things. And that's a lot to go through. Katie and John can help better with that. This is a view of the site from Snelling and Lake Street, and I'm looking east. So I'm right at right before the LRT station, on the other side of the LRT station. And like Barbara said, one of our goals as the architects is to try to understand how the design of voting spaces lift elections to a higher functionality. And this is what could be, and this is in size and scale of this. So what you'd see here is the main entrance, one of the main entrances to the building on Lake Street. This is our welcome center, so it'd be highly visible and transparent. This is the early voter election space. This is the existing building here, and you can see the community space beyond. And so what we're trying to do right now is just try to understand the size and scale of how this would feel on the site. We haven't determined the materials, textures, or colors. Those are things that would come later. Because part of our goal is to try to understand how to optimize, organize some of the procedures at work, and then how do we make this feel appropriate on the site. This is the site at the intersection of Minnehaha and Lake Street. So I'm looking west. We've got Hook and Ladder on my left. This is 3000 Minnehaha here. And this is size and scale, what this could look like. This is part of the community space at street level. We've got EVS on level 2, election voter services. In the building, it's in scale, so in perspective, so it's diminishing in size. And that's where the early voting space would be. And this is the last view that we have. Here we're standing on the south side of Snelling, looking north. And this is the current parking lot. This is the secure parking lot. And this is the, and then this is what this could look like here. So you can see it's a 2-story building. You can't see the entrance because of these trees, so we'll have to make those taller. But the entrance would be right here. It's a covered entrance where as folks come in, whether they're coming by bike, walking, coming by cars, bus, on the LRT, you can line up on the south face of the building, and then you enter in the southwest corner to go into the early voter. There's a ballot drop-off box area, which is on the, but there are a lot of pieces there. But so we've just completed the schematic design of the project, and it's been pretty complicated building to get all the pieces to locate and overlap with each other. I think that's my last slide, that is. So I can go back to any slide that you all would like to talk about or have questions about. I'm going to put it on the site plan because that's the easiest place to start.
Thank you so much for the presentation.
Okay.
I'll see if any of my colleagues have any questions.
Just as well. I think it's easier to hear.
Thank you.
Especially from people who.
I'll first pass it to Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Chair Chavez, and thank you, Mr. Laval, Director O'Brien. Great vision here. It's really nice to see everything coming along, and I think democracy is only becoming more and more important. In fact, we've had incredible turnout already just since early voting began. So clearly Minneapolis wants to vote, knows how to vote, and this will, I think, increase voter access for a lot of people. I just wanted to ask if you could give us an update on some timeline and next steps following this presentation.
Sure. Chair Chavez, or through Chair Chavez, I can absolutely address that. So following today's presentation, we'll continue with the design work. So this marked the end of schematic design, and we will move into design development. That's the time when we spend a lot more time on details and working out things kind of like colors and palettes and textures and things of that nature, and then eventually into construction documents. We anticipate that we will have the design portion wrapped up by the end of the year, or early January. We're looking forward to being able to go out with bid documents for this project sometime in early 2026, so that we can meet our goal of breaking ground and getting this project underway in spring of 2026. So pretty soon.
Great, thank you.
Next up, we have Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. Great presentation. I'm just curious, is the Snelling Democracy kind of voting center, is that like a new construction, or is that
We can go back.
retrofit?
Yeah, so let's talk about the red line.
Yeah.
And then what's, yeah.
So on the plan, council member, to the, I'm just going to use my cursor here. The existing building is,
I can do that so you can.
oh, okay. Thank you. So the existing building is east of the dashed red line on the plan, and the new addition is to the west of that dashed red line. And so that new addition is a two-story piece. It's about 20,000 square feet. Of that 20,000 square feet, there's a small amount on the second floor because the logistics center needs to be a high bay. It's a two-story space because there's stacked storage and a lot of things that are moving in there in a high bay way. And the early voting is directly to the east of that. Is that your question, if I'm understanding correctly?
I'm trying to understand, is there a new construction happening?
Yes. Yes. So new construction is occurring. So let me see.
To the left on the plan, and existing is to be.
So all of this to the left is new construction. So if I looked at it, so currently, I'll go back one slide. This is the existing building. So along Lake Street, council member, we have about 165 feet of frontage of the existing building. When you add the new building, it adds about another 160 feet of frontage along Lake Street, and it adds about 190 feet of frontage on Snelling. So that's the existing. That makes sense. And then that's a new construction right there to the left.
Okay, and then the existing building will be community space and logistics?
So in the existing building, let's go back to the first floor plan.
Sure.
Yep. Please. One more over. One more. There we go. So in the existing building, council member, the purple space on the right, which is currently the entrance to the building, 3,000 Minnehaha, 7,500 square feet roughly of space is dedicated for one of the community partners that would be moving into the building. And then the balance of the first floor is part of the EVS, which includes a training room, which spans a community space and the EVS, and we're working through whether that training room can be used for community meetings and things like that. But then the logistics center is a space that's blue, and then the early voting is right on the corner of Snelling and Lake Street. One of the things about the early voting center is about clarity, making sure it's in a highly visible and clear location. Many of us today, we vote in schools, places of worship, grocery stores. They're very common places, but they're sometimes unfamiliar to us. So one of the things that we've noted as architects is elevating the voting experience is making sure that there's clarity, making sure that the access and location is really important. So locating the early voting area right at the intersection of Lake and Snelling allows not only people that are walking, people that are coming on bikes from the LRT, coming in on mass transit, they're coming in Ubers, Lyfts, or in their vehicles because the parking lot's on Snelling, so that would become a highly visible corner. So that's why that's there. The logistics center is located right off of Snelling because we need access for, we have two 35-foot loading vans that bring materials in and head out to some of the other sites where they're voting sites, and then a couple larger semis that also bring things in, and that's one of the areas where lots of things move. But in order to get windows on Lake Street, we have a welcome center that moves along Lake Street and a front, so people that are coming in to register to vote or coming to learn to become election judges or to sign up for their polling places, they can do all of that activity right along Lake Street.
Thank you. I guess a follow-up question would be probably for Ms. O'Brien, but what would be the process for identifying a community partner?
Chair Chavez and council members, The question about the process for identifying a community partner, it's already underway. And I just want to say that today, the focus of today's presentation was for the schematic design review. I'd be happy to go over the process that is happening for establishing a community partner in a separate presentation or a separate memo with you.
Okay, that's acceptable. But yeah, I just want to make sure I understand what that process is going to be. Thank you.
Okay.
And next up, we have Vice Chair Chaudhary.
Thank you so much, Chair Chavez, and thank you so much for the presentation. Really appreciate just like being able to get a look at the actual schematic design and see what it will be like. For the parking spots, how many total parking spots are going to be available in the design in both lots? And kind of explain what's envisioned for the drop-off lot too, if you're able. Thank you so much.
Nope, that's perfect. So there are 61 parking stalls on the site, and there are 2 just pull-in drop-off spaces. So when you look at the parking lot, the southern half of the parking stall, I'll just start with the north half of the parking lot has 17 one-way parking stalls. So one would come into the site about 200 feet south of Lake Street, and you always move in a counterclockwise motion in drop-offs. But you can pull in the site, and you can park, or you can continue moving through, and that allows Ubers, Lyfts, multimodal vehicles to drop people off on the south side of the early voter center. The south side of the parking lot houses the balance of the 61 parking stalls, so there are about 40 parking stalls. And on election day, there are a lot of people that come in their cars, so it's laid out so that people can move in a counterclockwise manner and cars can line up.
Got it.
Counterclockwise is the way that you want to move through the site and the way you want to move through the drop-off, so it's set up that way. And it separates the loading area from the car traffic. But then what that also does is that when people come and they park, let's just say you park in the south parking lot, and say there are about 43 parking stalls in the southern parking lot, then you move along a sidewalk which is on the west side of the building, and you have about 100 feet of frontage, and then you have about another 50 feet of frontage on the south side so that people can line up, and they can start lining up undercover before they enter the building in the southeast corner, where there's also a welcome center where the line can continue. So that's how that kind of lays out. But then there's an exit. There's a lot of different pieces where you have to separate people and how they move through. But it's really well laid out in terms of it, at least we understand, to improve the flow, timing, and process.
Great.
To limit
Thank you.
wait.
And I know, I don't mean to cut you off, I just know that we have another presentation coming up here in a second. And so I'll follow up with you, Director O'Brien, about just like some of the parking conversations in the area for local businesses and community to just see how this would all fit. The one thing that I did want to ask, while we had 3,000 Minnehaha up as a conversation and maybe deviates a little bit from the schematic conversation, is just community members still continue to ask, like, what's the plans and next steps on the current old 3rd Precinct site? The burnt vestibule has been removed, which is really great to see, and I see people up on the building working there right now. Could you just share what community can expect in the coming months?
Most certainly. And I won't veer too far away from the schematic design presentation, why we're here today. But yes, as we promised, work will continue there. We continue to prepare it, to keep it clean. We're constantly there making sure that it is as clean as possible. we really look forward to, after today, being able to continue with the design process and keep it going so that we can make that impact that we have been talking about and people have been asking about. And really look forward to the day that we can take down construction fencing and open doors. That's going to be really great. And again, we anticipate that the design work will be complete end of this year, early January, so that we can go out with construction bidding can happen, and I can come back to the committee and ask for a construction contract in the spring. I think that's where we are. That is the known schedule. It's what we're all looking forward to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. We really appreciate it. And seeing no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to receive and file that presentation. Thank you so much.
I would like to make one quick gesture of gratitude. There have been Alexander Cato and Heidi Guerrero have also been really instrumental in this project as it relates to the community and community engagement. And so I want to call that out as well. And thank you, Councilmember Chavez. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bryan, and thank you to all the staff that are working really hard on this project. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, seeing no further discussion, as I said earlier, we will receive and file that presentation and ask the clerk to do that. Lastly, we have a presentation from the City Attorney's Office about updates and responses to the federal government action since February of 2025. I will welcome up the City Attorney's Office, City Attorney Anderson, for that presentation.
Right.
Along
Thank you.
with all our incredible city attorneys right here today.
Thank you, Chair Chavez, Kristen Anderson, City Attorney, and I have the entourage of the City Attorney's Office, folks who are working on federal response actions. We'll see how succinct your lawyers can be in the short amount of time, but I really want to come back here and feature the work that our office is doing. Since January, our office has taken significant action to protect the city's interests and values and resources. This has involved cross-office work. It's involved cross-enterprise work, significant effort, significant success, and this is really all on top of the lawyers' normal day-to-day work. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to talk about the great work that they're doing, and I will hand it over to Harold Melcher, an Assistant City Attorney from our office.
Thank you. Welcome, Harold.
Good afternoon, Chair Chavez, council members. My name is Harold Melcher, Assistant City Attorney on the Client Services team. I'm going to ground us in a very brief timeline of relevant events. These events are the backdrop to the work that we've been doing and that we're going to describe to you today. Starting on February 13th, the council granted the CAO authority to bring and join lawsuits on the city's behalf. That has really allowed the city attorney's office to take a very proactive approach in identifying litigation that implicates the city and our resources and our policies, and to join those lawsuits join and or bring those lawsuits in a really timely and efficient manner. And you'll see that very shortly after we were given that authority, we did join a lawsuit. That was San Francisco et al. V. Trump. That is a sanctuary cities case that also implicated federal funding. My colleague Sarah Lathrop is going to give us a brief status update on that case. Then following that, on April 17th, council passed action that requiring the CAO approval before execution of any federal grants. That is a departure from previous city policy or enterprise policy that sort of allowed for a far greater number of people to execute federal grants. This procedure allows us to take a much more detailed look at the terms and conditions that are being attached to grants now and make sure that they're things that we can and should be agreeing to when we accept federal monies. That work began in earnest in April. My colleague Amy Schutt is going to take us through that review, talk about the number of grants that we have discussed or that we've looked through, some of the successes we've had, and then how that review process also pairs with our litigation strategy. And then lastly, on May 21st, we joined King County v. Turner. That is the second case in which we are an active plaintiff. And again, my colleague Sarah Lathrop is going to give you a status update on that.
Welcome.
Chair Chavez, members of the committee, thank you. I'm Sarah Lathrop from the litigation team in the City Attorney's Office. I'm here to give you a brief update on the two lawsuits in which the City of Minneapolis is a plaintiff filed against the federal government relating to federal actions. The first, as Harold said, is City and County of San Francisco versus Donald Trump. This lawsuit is filed in federal court in the state of California, and it asks the court to enjoin the effectiveness of executive orders that the president issued and memos that people in the administration issued to stop so-called sanctuary cities from getting federal funding across the board, essentially. The position of the plaintiffs, which include the City of Minneapolis, is that those actions are unlawful. They go beyond the president's power, and they violate the United States Constitution. That lawsuit has been going on since early this year, and the court granted the plaintiff's request for a preliminary injunction, which means that the status quo while the lawsuit is proceeding is that the federal government cannot enforce those executive orders against the plaintiffs only. The federal government has appealed that preliminary injunction, but for the time being, the effectiveness of those executive orders does not apply to the City of Minneapolis or the other plaintiffs. That's currently on appeal with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and actually just today, the oral argument was scheduled for December. Meanwhile, the lawsuit is proceeding at the district court level, and we are making our way through this process. Second lawsuit is entitled Martin Luther King Jr. County versus Scott Turner, who's a member of the cabinet. And this lawsuit, instead of going after executive orders, it seeks to enjoin specific conditions that the federal government is putting in grants or applications for grants from the federal government. And so there are conditions that the federal government is putting in grant agreements or grant applications or interest that relate to immigration enforcement, so-called illegal DEI, gender ideology, and promoting supposed elective abortions. And the City of Minneapolis has been a plaintiff in this lawsuit since May. And it's against specific agencies that have actually advanced grants that the city has sought. And it's going one by one through those agencies. And so right now, the lawsuit is asserted against the United States Department of Transportation, Health and Human Services, and Housing and Urban Development, which represents a large amount of federal funding that the city relies on to carry out the work the city does. And in that case, the court has granted actually two preliminary injunctions, freezing the federal government from being able to enforce those conditions or restricting funding from the plaintiffs because of those conditions or not being able to agree to those conditions. And that is effective against the City of Minneapolis. So we are protected from those conditions while the lawsuit is proceeding, as long as that injunction is in place. That too has been appealed to the Ninth Circuit, and we are currently in the briefing period of the appeal. And meanwhile, the litigation is proceeding at the district court level. And that injunction allows the city to apply for and be awarded federal funding, notwithstanding those conditions. And my colleague Amy Schutt is going to tell you how that works with the federal grants. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Welcome, Amy.
Good afternoon, Chair Chavez, members of the committee. My name is Amy Schutt. I'm an assistant city attorney. So as you may recall from our last discussion with you earlier in the spring, our recent federal actions and directives have targeted federal funding through the addition of certain conditions that are contrary to the city's values and interests. Federal agencies have been threatening reduction, suspension, termination, and imposition of conditions upon the receipt of federal funding, mostly in grants, based on the acceptance of these conditions. Those conditions, as my colleague Sarah mentioned, include things like the cessation of DEI initiatives, mandated cooperation with federal immigration enforcement, and many other unacceptable terms. In April, the City Council passed a resolution requiring our office's approval before executing any of these federal grant documents. In response to these federal conditions and the landscape at the federal level, our office first compiled a comprehensive list of all of the active federal grants held by the city. Our office also created and launched a grant review process to ensure that we're reviewing the terms and conditions of all grants at various stages in the grant-making process to ensure those terms and conditions aren't being placed in the grants. That process consists of a pre-application review of all grants, including federal, state, local, and private funds, a pre-acceptance review of all grant applications, CAO, our office's signature on all federal grant documents, and then an additional review of federal grants and any issues that might arise during staff's implementation and administration of those awarded funds. Since launching that grant review process in April, our office has reviewed over 80 grants. And I think the grant review process and the litigation process together are really a symbiotic system of defense against the federal government's actions. So through the grant review process, our office is able to identify those problematic grant terms and conditions. Our proactive litigation then results in injunctions to prevent those conditions from applying to the city. And based on those injunctions that we get, we're able to negotiate those conditions out of the grant documents that we're seeing before they're signed. A great example of how this process has been put into place is with the Bridge Investment Improvement Program grant, which is a $34 million grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation's Federal Highway Administration program, which is passed through the Minnesota Department of Transportation. That grant is going to fund the reconstruction of the Nicollet Avenue Bridge over Minnehaha Creek. When the city first received the documents related to that grant, they did include references to many of the problematic terms and conditions that I've mentioned and that my colleagues have discussed. As a result, the city joined a lawsuit and did receive an injunction prohibiting the federal government and the Department of Transportation from enforcing those problematic terms and conditions. Our office was able then to negotiate the terms and conditions of the grant document we received to remove those problematic terms and conditions, and we have received authorization now to proceed with the project without those terms and conditions included in the grant.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, thank you, Chair and council members. My name is Julie Tietz, and I'm an admin analyst in the City Attorney's Office, and I'm here with Alex Kane, Assistant City Attorney, who we're here to speak to about our work on immigration. So actions from the federal government around immigration enforcement created an enormous desire from city staff to know and learn about what they lawfully can and cannot do in the case of a potential federal immigration enforcement action while they're on the job, specifically on city property and out in the field. To meet these needs, as City Attorney Anderson said, we worked cross-collaboratively with multiple departments to suss out the questions and concerns from staff, and included work with emergency management, comms, OIRA, NCR, Health Department, Reg Services, 311, several departments, to make sure that the guidance and information that we were creating would be responsive. And a part of this collaboration resulted in a few key deliverables. That includes the separation ordinance training, which Alex worked with OIRA on, and is now available for staff to complete on comment to learn more about the ordinance and how it impacts their work. We also produce some long form and a short form guidance for staff to have available to them to know what they can do in case an enforcement action would happen while they're at work. We also developed a process for staff to contact CAO to ask questions related to immigration enforcement, and developed a CAO email address for employees to direct their questions to have answered.
Good afternoon, Chair Chavez, council members. Julie summed it up pretty well. I just wanted to add that this really was a collaborative effort with other city departments, and the development of the training and the guidance documents was an iterative process. We made them, went back to the department heads from OIRA, Comms, Emergency Management, Civil Rights, Reg Services, 311. We got their take on how the folks they know within their department would receive this, whether the language was digestible and understandable. So there was a lot of back and forth and collaboration. The CAO really wanted to make sure that the guidance was concise and user-friendly without affecting the accuracy of the messaging. And the fact that we have this collaborative group set up now, it'll provide us flexibility moving forward if we need to adjust that guidance or those trainings or make any new documents. So we've really established almost a work group for us to move forward. Thank you. And now I'll hand it over to Carrie Johnson.
Thank you both so much. Welcome, Carrie.
Good afternoon, Chair Chavez, council members. Last thing to talk about that we're working on in our the city attorney's office is the U visa process. Along with what my colleagues have said before, this is one of the other areas that we have really partnered with other agencies. We're working with MPD. Some background on that is that the USCIS has been giving a lot more scrutiny to what the forms are that are filled out by victims seeking the U visa. And so by having an attorney review them, we're getting better output for these victims, so in hopes that they are not going to have any challenges or problems with anything that's signed off on by the city attorney or by MPD. We're finding that we are having better communication with immigration attorneys. We've been partnering with other jurisdictions as well, talking about best practices. We've been working through any challenges that we've been seeing collaboratively. We've also partnered with different immigration attorneys as well, and just talking through with them to see what their needs are and how we can also help them. Oops, I think I accidentally hit our slide too early there. As of today, we have 175 applications that we've received since we've done this partnership with MPD, which is a substantial number when you look at how many are going through. We do a double review to make sure that we're not missing anything. There's no blank spaces on any of the forms, any documents, as that has been reasons that we've heard that forms have been returned back to, and just delaying the process for those victims. So we want to make this as smooth as possible. We're also ensuring that we're following the best practices by USCIS so that there's nothing that they can come back and say that we aren't doing correctly. We are following everything as to the T as possible with those. And just making sure that we are available for victims. We have a website on the city's website, we also have very clear instructions of who to contact, and we've created an email address that directs everything to one place so that multiple people are able to review them and that they can respond quickly to any inquiries. And with that, we'll stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for the incredible presentation. I did have a question. It's probably for you, Carrie. So you said there's been 175 applications since March 2025.
That's correct.
Do you know what the number was in 2024?
I don't off the top of my head. I'm sorry, Chair Chavez. I will look at that and I can get back to you. I don't know the number specifically. I do have access to what MPD kept, and I have access to what the city attorney's office kept, but I haven't merged those numbers together, but I can definitely get that for you.
That would be really helpful. It's my understanding that the applications have increased for a variety of different reasons, but I would like to see if that's the case. I know when I reached out a couple years ago, this number has increased significantly since then, which probably ties to a variety of different reasons. Maybe there's more folks coming to the city because of this merger. I'm not sure. Maybe that's important data for us to know. National issues impacting our immigrant community. a whole bunch of other issues relating to folks going through this process. I just want to get a better understanding of that, but it seems like it has increased since the beginning of the year at least.
That is correct. It has increased, and I can just speak to the numbers that came directly to the city attorney's office. In broader terms, we have, I think, almost doubled the number that we had from like last year to this year. So,
definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next up, we have Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. My question was, are these U visas subject to $100,000 fees, like I think HB1 visas? Or are they subject to any fees at all?
Chair Chavez, Councilmember Jenkins, I cannot speak to the cost associated with these. What the city does and what's requested of the city, either MPD or the city attorney's office, is to certify what has, like, the crime that happened, but we don't actually fill out the forms and send in anything on behalf of the victims. That's done separately, either by themselves or through an immigration attorney. So I'm not sure of that number, but I could definitely look into it and get back to you.
Thank you.
City Attorney Anderson.
Chair Chavez, Councilmember Jenkins, my understanding is that that $100,000 fee is specific to H-1B visas, which is a special type of visa for learned professionals that come and work for existing American companies and would not be applicable to the U visa process.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is no one else on queue, so like I said earlier, I just want to thank the staff members, the city attorney's office, for all the work that you all are doing. You're doing a lot of work on top of your regular job duties, and you're doing it because you care about the city, you care about protecting our residents, you care about making our city a better place. So I just want to show my gratitude and appreciation for every single thing that you do for our city to uplift and protect our residents during a very difficult time at the federal level. And just know that we see the work that you all are doing, and just want to show my great appreciation to all of you. With that, seeing no further discussion, I will ask the clerk to receive and file that presentation. And with that, we've concluded all business to come before committee today, and hearing no objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned.